Hi, I'm Lima Milan, and in this video, we're going to look at Ableton Live's groove pool. So the first question we need to answer is, what is groove? So groove is a combination of timing and velocity or articulations of a sound playing at different volumes. So in Ableton Live, we can program grooves in by having different events, either on the grid or slightly off the grid to get a humanized kind of feel. And we can also program in volume changes or velocity changes to MIDI. Now the groove pool takes care of this and allows us to use templates of grooves and apply them to different audio or MIDI clips. So first, let's have a look at how we can set this up. If I open up the groove pool area here in the live browser, this opens up an area to you, which will be without any grooves at the moment, but I've actually applied some grooves to this part, which I'll then remove and reapply to show you how it all works. So at the moment, I have two different groove templates in my pool. And if I click on the actual clips, you'll see down in the clip section here in the groove chooser menu, which are the two options of grooves I've applied to different clips. So what I'll do first is I'll just go to the actual groove pool, highlight the two grooves that I have been using for this project, and just take those out by deleting them. Now, the way that we can apply grooves to our clips, there's a few different methods for doing this. So let's first load in a groove. So the quickest way to go to your groove library from the actual groove pool itself is to just Control or right click in the actual the pool, and then choose Browse Groove Library. And that will take us within the actual library within Live for different types of feels that we can apply to what we're doing. So I'm going to go to the Logic presets, just open that up. And we can actually preview the groove here. You can hear the little clicking noise kind of giving you a sense of where certain parts of the beats will be late or early to give you a sense of the feel. But I'm going to load that one into the groove pool there. Now, in terms of applying it to the clips, so we can do it individually by just dragging and dropping this to the particular clip that we want to apply it to, and then you'll notice that that chooser menu now has that groove applied to it. Another option we can do, if we want to universally apply this groove to everything within our composition that we're working on, is actually just use Command and A to highlight all the clips in the project, and then go to that chooser menu, and because we've multi-selected the clips, we can apply that groove, and then that's now on all clips that are involved as well. So the way that we're applying grooves at the moment is real time. Now, the advantage of doing it in real time means that at any point, the groove is always being, the sequences that we're playing are always being modified by this groove from the groove pool. But at any time, we can modify the parameters of the groove and change our mind further down the line. Now, once we're happy with that, what we can do is we can commit that as well. So if I just go for a sort of an extreme setting here. So I've got something, let me just solo this out. I've got a rhythmic part here. I'm just going to take the groove off it for a minute, and I'll show you kind of the difference between the real time and the committed versions of these grooves. So at the moment, this is just a straight running 16ths. Okay, if I now apply the groove in real time to that, you can hear the difference in terms of where the emphasis is on the rhythm and what's happening to the actual rhythm within the main beats as well. So if I hit commit, if I zoom in first actually, just so you can see the individual 16ths that are there. So what's happening right now is the 16ths are on the MIDI clip, then the groove pool is processing that MIDI, then it goes on to the instrument. If I hit the commit button, what it's doing is actually printing the groove to the MIDI clip, and you'll notice that now we have a visual kind of backup of what we were hearing, where it's actually being printed to the MIDI itself. Now, this can happen with MIDI or audio clips. It can warp and move the position of the audio within a loop as well. But if I go back to before, where I have it in real time, so it is being modified by the groove, except we can modify the parameters. We can go through the groove pool area now and get a sense of what these controls do. So what we have is the ability to kind of pre-quantize what's going on with our MIDI or audio that's in here. So if I pull the quantize amount down, if I want to sort of change the timing of this before I apply the groove itself, especially useful if you've gone for a live part that you've recorded and it has some kind of humanization that you want to first kind of remove and then apply only the groove from the groove template itself, you can pre-quantize it. So if I set this to 16ths and I quantize, we're trying to quantize something that's mechanically a 16th MIDI part, and we're trying to quantize it by 16ths, so we're getting no difference. We're trying to apply what's already happened to the part. But if I change the bass amount and I put it to 8ths and I start applying the quantize, you'll notice that it's like we're using the quantize process on the MIDI clip. So now it's slowly pulled them together so the notes are actually just falling on the 8ths as well. So it's a good way of just pre-preparing the information before the groove is applied itself. So the next thing we have is the timing of the actual the groove as well. So that's a percentage amount too, so we can choose how much influence it has over the current clips that are referring to that groove itself. So I'll just turn up timing, you'll hear what's going on. So you hear that slightly kind of dragged back kind of rhythm happening there, getting a bit more of a kind of a shuffly feel to the rhythm of this part. Now there's a randomization part here, which is good if you want to just make sure that not every time that this plays, it plays exactly the same. So we've got two things that have been factored into here as well. We have the timing, and as I mentioned earlier, we have like the velocity or the intensity of the parts too. So that leads us over to our final part in the groove pool, which is our velocity amount. Now at the moment, hopefully you can hear, if I take the timing off for a minute. And I start applying the velocity amount. You can hear now the groove template that we've chosen has certain parts within our time reference, so the beats or the parts within the beats. Some of them will strike louder, some of them will strike quieter. So we're not taking the timing from the groove template at this point, we're just taking the impact and the changes of velocity over time. So when we're kind of tweaking our groove templates that we've chosen and how we're going to apply them to the parts within our track, timing's one of the parts and velocity is the other part. If you want the timing to have a feel, but you just want everything to hit with the same intensity, make sure that velocity is set to 0. And the velocity as well can be set to a sort of a polar opposite version of the application. So at the moment where it's emphasizing maybe more on the beats and then it has lighter hits in between the beats, if you reverse that, it will do the opposite version of what's going on. So I'm just going to set that to 0 for now and just bring in the timing. Okay, now we're just listening to that example part where it's just playing 16th, so we could really clearly hear what it's doing to the groove. So let's unsolo that, and if you remember, I highlighted all the clips and I selected that particular groove template to apply to everything that's running right now. I can set this in real time when I hear all the parts, and I can decide what feels best for this tune. So we're just using one groove template, and it's being applied at this point to all of the clips of what we have running. Okay, so we have some parts here which are individual small clips, and this is worth pointing out here. If I just solo this part out. Okay, so this is how this whole idea started off. This is me manipulating the kick drum in different ways to get an interesting percussive part. What's happening at the moment is the groove is applied, but it's trying to apply groove correction to every individual slice, and we want it more to see the whole kind of musical passage over time. We want it to apply it to the parts within that larger idea. So this is a point where, especially with audio, what we want to do is actually just commit this audio to a larger loop, and then the groove template can see the whole picture and then apply it as it should be for the right feel. At the moment, it hasn't got a chance to move the individual clips, just the content within the clips. So let's make the clip bigger so it has a bit more control over what's going on. So I'm just going to highlight all these parts, and then I'm going to press Command and J to consolidate those together. And now what we have is the ability to really hear the groove being applied. So remember, what it was trying to do was apply groove to all the content within the clips, except the clips were just tiny single one-shot events. In order for the groove to be able to push and pull the content of the audio clip, we needed to glue them all together using Consolidate first. And then, as you can hear, the groove is way more effective at this point by taking this approach. Okay, so one last kind of context of what we're doing here. Often when I'm working between drums and other melodic aspects, I might want my bass and my drum section to follow the tune of one groove, but I might want my melodic parts or some other percussive parts to also have a slightly different feel, to get this feeling of maybe like a typical band or a drumming sort of group of people where everyone has their own kind of style of playing. As a whole it works, but if you were to listen to each individual drummer in a group, you might hear that one of them plays a little bit more behind than the other. One of them, is a little bit more keen and running a little bit more ahead of the beat, and we can do that by using more than one groove template. So keeping in mind that we're focusing on this kind of kick-gone percussive part, what I'm going to do is find another groove. So let's leave the kind of the classic Logic templates here. And there is a lot of classic kind of feels and grooves, which, if you look at the history of electronic music making, have been a big part of different styles over the decades. But I'm going to go for a percussion preset here. And let's just see what happens if I go for the first one and apply it. So I'm going to drag and drop this time to the clip. So this one's a lot stronger on the velocity range that's available. So I've brought that right back to make sure there's some consistency of the sound being heard. Let's just change the kind of the bass, which is the grid system it's using to apply this grid, and see if I can create a bit more of a feel from this. Okay, so just to show you again, as I mentioned, you can commit to audio 2. And what you'll see is it does warping to the actual audio, so it's repositioned all those parts. Before, when it wasn't committed, again, just to recap, it was applying that to the audio, but we weren't seeing it, we were just hearing it to the audio clips themselves. Okay, so I'm just going to tweak this in context of everything else. So let's just unsolo that. And let's use hot swap. So let's press the hot swap button and let's try some of these different grooves as well and see if they better suit the other sounds. Okay, so I like that one called Congas 2. It had certain parts within the bar, it was a lot louder than the rest of it, so I've reduced that velocity amount just to make it less extreme how loud and quiet it will play those parts. So what we've looked at so far with this is how we can use the groove pool to load in groove templates. We've also applied that to various audio and MIDI clips. We've had a look at how we can commit those to the MIDI or audio clip, so it actually makes a physical change to the clip as well. And finally, what we've looked at is how we can use multiple groove templates to create that sensation of different styles all becoming some sort of unified piece that makes sense as a whole.